Every single morning, you wake up with a choice. That choice will either set your brain and body up for peak energy, deep focus, and better sleep, or it will quietly sabotage your day and your night. Most people don't realize this, but the most powerful tool to regulate your alertness, mood, and sleep isn't a supplement. It's not a meditation. It's not even your morning coffee. It's light, specifically sunlight. Today, I'm going to show you how just 10 minutes of one specific activity in the morning can unlock more energy, improve your mental health, and help you fall asleep faster by working directly on the chemicals and circuits in your brain and body. This isn't theory, it's neuroscience. And it starts the moment you wake up. When you wake up in the morning, your brain is in a transitional state. It's shifting from the deep rest of sleep into the alertness needed for your day. But this transition doesn't happen automatically. It needs a clear biological signal to tell your body the day has begun. That signal comes primarily from one source, light. More specifically, natural light, the kind produced by the sun. Inside your eyes, there are specialized cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells don't help you see. They're not involved in forming images, but they are deeply connected to a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. The SCN is often referred to as your body's master clock. It governs your circadian rhythm, the 24-hour cycle that controls when you feel alert, when you feel sleepy, when your hormones are released, when your body temperature rises and falls, and even when your organs perform certain functions. When those retinal cells detect bright natural light in the morning, particularly the blue light wavelengths that are abundant in early sunlight, they send a powerful signal to the SCN. That signal says, "It's morning now, time to start the day." And from there, a cascade of events unfolds across your brain and body. Hormones shift. Your core body temperature begins to rise. Your alertness begins to increase. Your brain starts producing more neurotransmitters associated with mood and focus. In short, that morning light resets your entire system. If you miss that morning light signal, if you stay indoors, keep your curtains drawn, or rely only on artificial indoor lighting, your circadian clock doesn't get that proper cue. It stays in a kind of limbo, and that has consequences. You may feel groggier, less focused, and have more trouble falling asleep later that night. Over time, this disruption can affect everything from mood regulation to metabolic health. What's important to understand is that this light exposure needs to be viewed directly through the eyes, not through a window, not through sunglasses, and not just ambient indoor light. Even on a cloudy day, the outdoor light intensity is many times greater than anything you get indoors. That intensity matters. It's not just about light being present. It's about the lux, the measure of light brightness, being high enough to trigger the biological mechanisms in your brain. This isn't a minor lifestyle tweak. This is a fundamental part of how your biology is designed to function. Before electricity, every human on Earth woke up and was exposed to natural light within minutes. Today, most people spend their mornings under artificial light, checking phones or staying in dim rooms, and we wonder why energy levels crash and sleep suffers. The good news is, just stepping outside for a few minutes each morning, ideally within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking, can reset your internal clock in the right direction. This is the foundation of circadian alignment. When you consistently anchor your day with early sunlight, you're literally training your brain and body to operate in sync with the environment. And when you're in sync, energy feels natural, focus comes easier, and sleep becomes deeper and more restorative. This one habit can transform how you feel throughout the day and how well you rest at night, all by simply stepping into the light. When we hear the word cortisol, we often associate it with stress, and for good reason. Cortisol is commonly referred to as the body's stress hormone, and in certain contexts, elevated levels of it can lead to anxiety, inflammation, or even burnout. But what most people don't realize is that cortisol is not inherently bad. In fact, it plays a critical role in healthy brain and body function, especially when it rises at the right time, in the right amount. One of the most essential times for cortisol to be elevated is in the early part of the day soon after waking. This natural healthy cortisol spike is what kickstarts your entire waking state. When you expose your eyes to bright sunlight in the morning, particularly within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking, you stimulate the release of cortisol in a sharp but controlled pulse. This pulse acts like an internal wake-up call. It alerts every cell in your body, that it's time to transition from the restful, restorative mode of sleep to the alert, active state of wakefulness. This rise in cortisol increases blood sugar slightly, boosts your metabolism, enhances your alertness, and prepares to be more focused and engaged. But there's something even more fascinating. The timing of this cortisol release sets the tone for your entire circadian rhythm. Your brain begins to count down from that moment, preparing to release melatonin, your sleep hormone, about 14 to 16 hours later. So by getting that sunlight-induced cortisol rise in the morning, you're not just waking yourself up more effectively, you're actually programming your body to wind down properly later in the evening. This alignment is essential for maintaining energy during the day and ensuring high-quality sleep at night. Now compare this with what happens when you skip this morning light exposure. Maybe you wake up and spend the first few hours under dim indoor lighting. Or maybe the first light your eyes see is the artificial blue glow of your phone. In that case, your cortisol rise may be delayed or blunted. Instead of that sharp, healthy pulse, you get a dull trickle. Or worse, your body compensates by releasing cortisol at irregular times throughout the day. That's when cortisol becomes problematic. You may feel groggy in the morning, wired or anxious in the afternoon, and tired but unable to sleep at night. It's not just the presence of cortisol that matters. It's when and how it rises. This is one of the reasons why people who regularly get early sunlight exposure often report feeling more energized and focused during the day. Their bodies are operating in rhythm. The cortisol spike happens when it's supposed to, supporting alertness, motivation, and concentration. And because it's happening at the right time, it doesn't interfere with relaxation or sleep later on. Instead, it enhances the natural arc of energy, rising in the morning, peaking in the early day, and gradually tapering off as night approaches. This morning cortisol pulse is also deeply connected to your immune function, your ability to handle physical and emotional stress, and even your mental health. There's research showing that consistent early morning light exposure and the healthy cortisol rhythm it produces is linked to lower rates of depression, improved resilience, and better emotional regulation. It helps regulate inflammation and balances the nervous system between states of activation and rest. The key to unlocking this powerful biological process lies in something incredibly simple. Step outside early in the day, let your eyes take in natural light, and allow your body to do what it's designed to do. You don't have to stare directly at the sun. In fact, you shouldn't. But being outdoors, even in indirect sunlight, provides the intensity and spectrum of light necessary to signal your brain. This signal is not just visual, it's hormonal, neurological, and deeply physiological. So when you think about energy, alertness, and mental clarity, don't just reach for caffeine or stimulation. Instead, think about the most natural foundational tool your body has evolved to rely on: the morning light-driven rise in cortisol. When that happens consistently, everything else, from your focus to your sleep, begins to fall into place. When you wake up in the morning, your brain and body are still under the influence of a powerful chemical, melatonin. Melatonin is often referred to as the sleep hormone, and for good reason. It's what helps initiate and maintain deep restorative sleep. But melatonin is not just a switch that flips on and off. It's part of a delicate and complex rhythm, and the timing of when it turns off in the morning is just as important as when it turns on at night. Melatonin is produced by a small structure in your brain, called the pineal gland, and its release is tightly regulated by the light-dark cycle in your environment. As the sun sets and the sky dims, a signal is sent from your eyes to the brain, telling the pineal gland to start secreting melatonin. This process makes you feel drowsy and helps guide your body into sleep. But that process doesn't just stop the moment you open your eyes in the morning. Melatonin can linger, unless something actively shuts it off. That something is light. More specifically, bright natural light, especially the wavelengths of blue and yellow light that are found in early morning sunlight. When this light enters your eyes shortly after waking, it sends a powerful message to your brain: stop producing melatonin. It's morning now. It's time to wake up, move, think, and engage with the world. This rapid shutdown of melatonin production is a key part of what helps your brain fully shift from the sleep state into the awake state. If you don't get that strong light signal early in the day, melatonin can continue to circulate in your system longer than it should. The result? You feel groggy, sluggish, and mentally foggy. Your body is awake, but your brain hasn't fully caught up. This is sometimes referred to as sleep inertia, and it can drag on for hours if your internal clock isn't properly reset. Many people try to fight this with caffeine, but caffeine is only a temporary stimulant. It doesn't reset your internal rhythm. Light does. The importance of shutting down melatonin at the right time also has downstream effects that influence your entire day. When melatonin lingers too long, it blunts the release of other critical hormones and neurotransmitters, ones that promote alertness, motivation, and focus. For example, the rise in cortisol and dopamine that should occur shortly after waking can be delayed or weakened if melatonin hasn't been properly suppressed. In other words, your entire neurochemical landscape becomes skewed. You're not just tired, you're operating out of sync. On the flip side, when you expose yourself to sunlight in the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking, you help rapidly and cleanly turn off melatonin production. This clears the mental haze and allows the rest of your brain chemistry to come online. Dopamine starts to rise, increasing your drive and motivation. Cortisol rises in a healthy arc, giving you energy. Serotonin also begins to build up, setting the stage for melatonin to be produced again later that evening. Not immediately, but many hours later, when the lights dim and it's time for sleep once again. This entire system, often called your circadian rhythm, is a loop. It depends on consistent signals to stay in alignment. Light in the morning is the anchor. Without it, everything starts to drift. You may find yourself feeling tired in the middle of the day, wired late at night, and unable to fall asleep at a reasonable hour. Over time, this misalignment can lead to sleep disorders, mood disturbances, low energy, and even metabolic issues. It's also worth noting that the strength and quality of the light matters. Indoor lighting, even when it feels bright to your eyes, is often thousands of times less intense than natural outdoor light. For example, a typical indoor bulb might produce 300 to 500 lux of light. A cloudy morning sky produces 1,000 to 5,000 lux. A clear sunny morning can exceed 10,000 lux, sometimes reaching 30,000 lux or more. That intensity is what's needed to strongly suppress melatonin and cue your brain that the day has truly begun. By stepping outside and allowing your eyes, not through sunglasses, not through a window, but directly, to absorb natural morning light, you're triggering a biological switch that resets your entire system. It's a simple act that takes just a few minutes, yet it holds profound power. It improves mental clarity, boosts energy, and ensures that when night falls, your body is ready once again to produce melatonin at the right time, giving you deeper, higher quality sleep. So when you think about how to feel more alert and energized in the morning, and how to fall asleep more easily at night, think about what your brain needs most. A clear signal. Light is that signal. Morning sunlight is not just a luxury, it's a biological necessity. And it starts with giving your brain the one cue it needs to shut off melatonin and start your day with clarity, energy, and alignment. One of the most profound yet often overlooked effects of morning sunlight is its influence on a neurochemical that plays a central role in how we feel, think, and behave: dopamine. Dopamine is commonly referred to as the motivation molecule or the feel-good neurotransmitter, but it's far more than that. It's the chemical that drives goal-directed behavior, fuels your ability to stay focused, and gives you the sense that your actions matter. In essence, dopamine governs your willingness to pursue effort, to delay gratification, and to experience pleasure from progress. And perhaps surprisingly, one of the most effective and natural ways to boost dopamine levels in a sustainable way is by exposing your eyes to natural sunlight early in the day. When sunlight, especially the early morning sunlight that's rich in certain wavelengths of blue and yellow light, enters your eyes, it doesn't just help reset your circadian rhythm. It also activates a pathway in the brain that leads to the release of dopamine. This process begins in the retina, which sends signals to areas of the brain that regulate mood, alertness, and motivation, particularly a region known as the ventral tegmental area, or VTA. This area is packed with dopamine-producing neurons. When stimulated by light, these neurons become more active, resulting in an increased release of dopamine throughout key circuits in the brain. The dopamine that's released in the morning sets a kind of emotional and motivational tone for the rest of the day. You feel more driven, more engaged, more willing to take action. Your brain begins to assign greater value to goals and tasks, making it easier to concentrate, initiate work, and push through resistance. In other words, morning sunlight doesn't just wake you up, it primes your entire neurochemical system to be more focused and effective. It puts you in a state of mental readiness. This light-induced dopamine release also has a powerful effect on mood. Research has shown that individuals who regularly get early morning sunlight exposure report lower levels of depression and anxiety. Part of this effect is due to the circadian alignment that light provides, but another significant part is due to dopamine's role in regulating mood and emotional resilience. When dopamine levels are too low, people often experience fatigue, low mood, lack of pleasure in activities, and a sense of emotional flatness. But when dopamine is boosted naturally, in the right amount, and at the right time, it can enhance your emotional tone, giving you a greater sense of enthusiasm and mental clarity. There's also a fascinating relationship between dopamine and how we perceive rewards. Dopamine is not just released when we achieve something, it's released in anticipation of reward, and it increases our drive to pursue that reward. That's why boosting dopamine early in the day can help create a feedback loop of motivation. You start the day with more drive, you engage with tasks more effectively, and the resulting progress further reinforces that dopamine circuitry. It becomes easier to build momentum. It's important to note that this is very different from the short-term dopamine spikes produced by things like social media, processed sugar, or impulsive behavior. Those artificial spikes are often followed by crashes and dysregulation. But the dopamine release from sunlight exposure is more balanced, more sustained, and tied to a healthy biological rhythm. It's not hijacking your dopamine system, it's aligning it. The benefits extend even further. Dopamine is also deeply involved in motor function and movement. This is one reason why combining light exposure with light physical activity, like walking or stretching outside in the morning, can amplify its effects. Movement increases dopamine sensitivity, meaning your brain becomes more responsive to the dopamine it receives. Together, light and movement create a compound effect that leaves you feeling energized, capable, and mentally sharp. Over time, if you consistently get sunlight early in the day, your dopamine system becomes more stable and resilient. This means you're less likely to rely on artificial stimuli to feel motivated or awake. Your brain learns to operate more efficiently, your emotional baseline improves, and your ability to delay gratification and pursue long-term goals gets stronger. This is one of the keys to building discipline, not through force but through neurobiology. In a world where so many people struggle with focus, burnout, and emotional exhaustion, this simple practice, stepping outside and letting natural light into your eyes within the first hour of waking, can be transformational. It's a natural, free, and incredibly effective way to enhance dopamine release, improve mood, and increase motivation without relying on external stimulants or quick fixes. So when you think about how to increase your energy, your drive, and your ability to face the day with clarity and purpose, remember that your brain is wired to respond to light. Dopamine is your internal fuel, and morning sunlight is the key that unlocks it. By aligning with this natural system, you give yourself the best possible start to every day. When it comes to sleep, most people focus on what they do at night, cutting off screen time, lowering the lights, avoiding caffeine, or perhaps taking supplements like melatonin. While those habits can be useful, there's something far more foundational that most people overlook. The quality of your sleep at night is deeply influenced by what happens in the morning. Specifically, your exposure to natural light in the early part of the day plays a critical role in determining how well you sleep later that night. This may seem counterintuitive, but biologically it makes perfect sense. Your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm, operates in a 24-hour loop, and the strength and clarity of that loop depends on when you set its anchor point, the beginning of your day. When you view bright natural sunlight within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking, you're sending a powerful timestamp to your brain. This signal enters the eyes and is processed by the same retinal ganglion cells that help regulate your circadian rhythm. These cells send a direct message to a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which acts like your body's master clock. When the suprachiasmatic nucleus receives that signal early in the morning, it starts a countdown, a biological timer that leads to the eventual release of melatonin, your body's natural sleep hormone, roughly 14 to 16 hours later. That countdown is essential. If you skip morning light exposure, the timing of this entire system becomes erratic. Your brain doesn't get a clear cue that the day has started, so the release of melatonin is delayed or disrupted. This means you might not feel sleepy when you want to go to bed, or you may have trouble falling and staying asleep, even if you've avoided stimulants and practiced good sleep hygiene. Your system is out of sync, not because of what you did at night, but because of what you didn't do in the morning. Think of your circadian rhythm like a symphony orchestra. Every instrument, your metabolism, your hormone levels, your brain chemistry, your mood is playing its part. But for the music to sound coherent, there has to be a conductor, a cue that tells the entire system when to begin. Morning sunlight is that cue. Without it, the whole rhythm can fall apart. The result is that you go through your day, feeling off-tempo, maybe a bit foggy, maybe wired when you should be winding down. And by the time you try to sleep, your internal clock simply isn't ready. There's also something deeply physiological happening here. Morning light exposure triggers a healthy spike in cortisol, a hormone that's often misunderstood. While chronic cortisol elevations caused by stress can be harmful, this morning spike is essential. It acts as a signal that the day has begun and helps suppress melatonin production. That suppression is just as important as melatonin's release at night. Why? Because you want a strong contrast between your daytime and nighttime hormone profiles. Bright light and elevated cortisol during the day tell your body it's time to be awake. Darkness and rising melatonin at night tell your body it's time to rest. The bigger that contrast, the more restorative your sleep becomes. In fact, research shows that individuals who get at least 5 to 10 minutes of direct morning sunlight on clear days, or 15 to 30 minutes on cloudy days, tend to fall asleep faster, wake up less throughout the night, and spend more time in deep non-REM sleep. This is the type of sleep that promotes tissue repair, strengthens your immune system, and consolidates memories. It's the kind of sleep that leaves you feeling genuinely restored, not just unconscious for a few hours. It's also worth noting that the modern lifestyle often makes this difficult. Most people wake up indoors, commute in cars, work under artificial light, and may not see the sun until midday, if at all. Indoor light, even when it seems bright, is nowhere near the intensity required to properly regulate your circadian system. You might think you're awake and functioning, but your brain doesn't fully get the message. And when the evening comes, your body hasn't built up the biological pressure it needs to fall into a deep, restful sleep. By contrast, if you make it a habit to go outside shortly after waking, ideally without sunglasses and not looking through windows, you allow the full spectrum of sunlight to enter your eyes. That light exposure does more than just wake you up. It builds a strong circadian signal that sets the entire sleep-wake cycle in motion. It ensures that melatonin will rise at the right time, in the right amount, allowing you to fall asleep naturally and stay asleep deeply. Over time, this habit has a compounding effect. Your sleep becomes more consistent. You wake up at the same time more easily. You stop needing alarms or sleep aids. Your energy during the day improves because you're getting higher quality rest at night. And that in turn makes it easier to continue waking up early and getting outside, creating a virtuous cycle where your brain and body stay in rhythm with the natural world. So when you're looking to improve your sleep, don't just focus on what happens in the evening. Start by thinking about how you begin your day. The best way to sleep better at night starts with something simple and powerful, getting outside and letting the morning light into your eyes. This one practice, done consistently, can recalibrate your entire system and restore the kind of deep, nourishing sleep that modern life too often steals away. The human brain and body are hardwired to respond to cycles of light and dark. This isn't just a preference, it's biology. At the core of this system lies your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock that regulates virtually every physiological process: your sleep-wake cycle, hormone release, digestion, body temperature, immune function, and even your cognitive performance. One of the most powerful and natural ways to reinforce and stabilize this rhythm is to get outside and move your body in the presence of natural morning sunlight. When you combine movements such as walking, stretching, or light exercise with early light exposure, you engage multiple systems in your body that work in harmony to produce energy, focus, and long-term health. It might seem like a simple practice, but the neurobiological effects are profound. When you move your body in the morning, especially outdoors, you're sending signals to your brain that it is time to transition into a wakeful, alert, and high-performance state. These signals go far beyond just increasing your heart rate or warming up your muscles. They impact your nervous system, your hormone profile, your metabolism, and your cognitive function. Movement in the morning initiates a cascade of neural activity that stimulates the release of several key neurotransmitters. One of the first is norepinephrine, which helps increase alertness and sharpen attention. Then comes dopamine, which boosts motivation and the drive to engage with tasks. These chemicals are not just produced in isolation, they're modulated and amplified by physical activity. Even a short walk outside in the early morning light can trigger these neurochemicals, creating a brain state that is primed for learning, creativity, and focus. As your body begins to move, you also start to elevate your core body temperature. This rise in temperature is another strong cue to your circadian system that the active part of your day has begun. It's the biological equivalent of stepping on the gas pedal. The increased temperature enhances enzymatic activity in your cells, meaning your body starts to produce energy more efficiently. You begin metabolizing glucose and fat more effectively. Your muscles become more responsive and your brain receives increased blood flow, oxygen, and nutrients. All of this contributes to a heightened state of readiness, mentally and physically. Now combine all of this with sunlight and you create a synergistic effect that goes far beyond what either light or movement can do on their own. When your eyes detect the specific wavelengths of early sunlight, especially the blue and yellow spectrum, they activate the retinal cells that send signals to your brain's master clock. This not only resets your circadian rhythm for the day, but it also increases the release of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that stabilizes mood, promotes a sense of well-being, and serves as a precursor to melatonin, which helps you sleep later that night. So by walking in the morning sun, you're not just waking up, you're also setting up your brain to produce the chemicals it needs to help you wind down hours later. This kind of movement doesn't need to be intense. In fact, it's often more beneficial if it's light to moderate. A walk through your neighborhood, a few minutes of stretching in the backyard, or simply standing and moving around on a balcony while the sun rises. The point isn't to break a sweat or hit a performance metric. It's to gently activate the systems that need to be engaged for your body to function optimally throughout the day. Doing this consistently, every morning, ideally within an hour of waking, trains your body and brain to anticipate the rhythms of the day. You start to feel naturally more energized in the morning, more focused during your most productive hours, and more relaxed in the evening. You begin to move in sync with the natural world instead of against it. Over time, this reduces your dependence on caffeine and artificial stimulation. You stop needing external motivators because your internal systems are functioning as they were designed to. Moreover, morning movement in sunlight also has long-term benefits for mental health. It reduces cortisol dysregulation, lowers baseline levels of stress, and supports the resilience of your nervous system. It creates a buffer against anxiety, helps regulate mood disorders, and even improves immune function. The brain is more plastic and responsive early in the day, and the combination of movement and light harnesses that plasticity in a way that rewires your brain toward energy, positivity, and clarity. In a world that often pushes people into a rushed reactive state from the moment they wake up, reaching for their phone, diving into emails, skipping meals, and staying inside under artificial light, this practice offers a powerful reset. It's a conscious, deliberate act of aligning your physiology with the natural order of things, and it doesn't require expensive tools, supplements, or apps, just your body, your breath, and the light of the rising sun. So when you think about how to feel more energized, more focused, and better prepared to face the demands of the day, remember that one of the most powerful tools is available to you every morning. Move your body, go outside, and let the sunlight in. This one act sets off a ripple effect through every system in your body, anchoring your internal rhythms, and creating the biological conditions for energy, performance, and deep restorative sleep later that night. There's something uniquely powerful about beginning your day with exposure to natural light, and it has everything to do with your brain's deep, ancient connection to the environment. What most people don't realize is that your brain relies on cues from your surroundings, especially light, to determine what mode it should be in. Is it time to be alert and active? Is it time to rest and recover? These decisions are not made arbitrarily. They are regulated by a complex interplay of hormones, neurotransmitters, and neural circuits, many of which are influenced by light entering your eyes in the morning. And one of the most significant outcomes of this interaction is the reduction of stress. When you wake up and immediately expose your eyes to natural sunlight, even if it's cloudy, you send a strong signal to your brain that the day has begun. This light enters the retina and activates a neural circuit that reaches deep into your hypothalamus, where the body's central clock resides. This circadian signal prompts the controlled release of cortisol, a hormone often misunderstood. While chronic, excessive cortisol is damaging and associated with anxiety and fatigue, a healthy spike in cortisol early in the morning is not only normal, it's essential. It promotes wakefulness, mobilizes energy stores, and prepares your body for the physical and cognitive demands of the day. But here's where the distinction matters. That early cortisol spike, when triggered by sunlight, is regulated and time-bound. It tells your system, the day has begun. Let's get to work. And then it gradually tapers off, allowing for a smooth transition into evening relaxation. This rhythm is what helps reduce stress later in the day. It's like training your nervous system to rise and fall with the natural cycles of the earth. When this rhythm is strong and consistent, your brain and body operate with greater ease. You feel less reactive. You're better able to cope with challenges. You don't swing as wildly between fatigue and hyperarousal. Instead, there's a calm steadiness to your energy. Compare that to the way most people start their day. They wake up in darkness, check their phone immediately, are flooded with artificial blue light, social media notifications, work emails, and stressful news, all before their body has had a chance to orient itself to the natural rhythm of the day. In that scenario, cortisol release becomes erratic. It spikes in unpredictable ways, often accompanied by adrenaline, leading to a state of chronic low-grade stress that persists throughout the day. And when you live in that state, constantly wired, distracted, and overstimulated, your body never fully gets the chance to downshift into true rest. Your sleep suffers, your digestion slows, your emotional resilience weakens. You become more reactive, more irritable, and less capable of adapting to pressure. Morning light exposure is a direct antidote to this modern stress loop. By stepping outside and allowing natural light to hit your eyes, you re-establish control over your biological stress response. You essentially remind your nervous system that it's safe, that it can operate in a rhythm instead of in chaos. That message of safety and predictability calms the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, and allows your prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thinking and emotional regulation, to take charge. In this way, light becomes more than just a cue for wakefulness. It becomes a stabilizing force for your entire psychological and physiological state. This natural calming effect also has a profound influence on your autonomic nervous system, which governs your fight-or-flight response. Morning light exposure, especially when paired with gentle movement or deep breathing, activates the parasympathetic branch of this system, often referred to as rest and digest. It tells your heart rate to slow down, your blood pressure to normalize, and your digestion to resume. It brings you out of the reactive survival mode and into a more responsive adaptive state. This doesn't mean you become less productive. In fact, the opposite is true. When your nervous system is regulated, your attention sharpens, your decision-making improves, and your overall sense of clarity increases. You become more effective with less effort. Another key benefit is the regulation of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that not only improves mood, but also modulates anxiety and contributes to a sense of emotional well-being. Exposure to morning sunlight increases serotonin production, particularly in parts of the brain that are involved in mood regulation. Higher serotonin levels correlate with reduced feelings of stress and improved coping ability. Over time, consistent morning light exposure helps to buffer your stress response, meaning that even when challenges do arise, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed or emotionally flooded. You have more bandwidth, not just physically, but emotionally and cognitively. This is especially important in a world where chronic stress has become a silent epidemic. People often seek relief through stimulants, substances, or distractions, all of which only mask symptoms temporarily. But the root of the issue, dysregulation of the body's natural rhythms, often remains unaddressed. Morning sunlight offers a foundational, drug-free, and biologically consistent solution. It helps reset your entire system so that you're not operating in survival mode all day long. You're grounded, focused, and clear-headed. You're able to move through the world with more confidence and less tension. So when you step outside in the morning and look toward the horizon, even for just a few minutes, understand that you're doing more than just getting some fresh air. You are rebalancing your brain. You are training your body to produce energy when needed, and to relax when appropriate. You are creating the conditions for calmness, resilience, and emotional strength to emerge, not through force, but through alignment with biology. And that single act, repeated day after day, becomes a foundation of true, lasting stress reduction.
In our modern lives, where so much of our daily experience is shaped by screens, artificial lighting, and erratic schedules, it's easy to lose connection with the natural rhythms that once governed our biology. One of the most powerful ways to reclaim that connection and enhance both your physical and mental performance is through the consistent practice of early morning light exposure. This simple yet profound habit does far more than wake you up. It lays the foundation for improved focus, elevated cognitive function, and greater overall productivity throughout the day. When you expose your eyes to natural sunlight in the early morning, your brain receives a cascade of signals that go well beyond circadian regulation. One of the first effects is a dramatic increase in alertness. This is due to the activation of specialized cells in the retina that send signals to various brain regions responsible for arousal, attention, and motivation. These light-sensitive cells are directly connected to areas that regulate neurotransmitters like dopamine, which plays a key role in motivation and reward-based behavior. By getting light in your eyes early in the day, you stimulate dopamine release, helping you feel more driven and mentally engaged. But the impact doesn't stop there. That light exposure also enhances the production and regulation of norepinephrine, another critical neurotransmitter involved in focus and vigilance. This is why people who consistently get morning sunlight often report feeling sharper and more mentally clear as the day progresses. It's not just that they're awake, their brains are operating in a more optimized state, primed for problem-solving, decision-making, and deep concentration. This enhanced mental state also has a knock-on effect on your ability to stay productive. When your circadian system is anchored by early light exposure, your cognitive energy tends to peak earlier in the day, aligning with the body's natural rhythm for focused work. You don't have to fight fatigue or rely on endless caffeine to push through tasks. Your brain simply works better when it's in sync with the biological cues it evolved to follow. Tasks that would normally take an hour might take 30 minutes. Creative ideas flow more easily. You find yourself in a state of momentum, not struggle. That's because your brain isn't trying to operate in survival mode. It's not fending off stress hormones, sleep inertia, or internal confusion about what time it is. Instead, it's in a flow state supported by biology. The brain thrives on rhythm, and light is one of the most important rhythm setters there is. When light exposure happens at the right time each morning, it helps tighten the feedback loops that regulate cognitive energy, emotional stability, and executive function. Another major benefit of morning light is how it improves your sleep quality, which in turn supercharges your next day's performance. People often underestimate the relationship between sleep and productivity. They think being productive means sleeping less. But in truth, the opposite is more often the case. High-performing individuals, especially those operating at a cognitive level, rely on high-quality sleep to consolidate memories, clear mental clutter, and allow the brain to reset. Morning light exposure kickstarts that sleep process from the moment you wake up. It sets a timer that ensures melatonin will be released at the appropriate time that evening, allowing you to fall asleep faster and reach deeper stages of rest. And with better sleep comes better thinking, better decision-making, and a more balanced mood the following day. It also affects your energy metabolism, which is directly tied to mental clarity. Early sunlight helps regulate insulin sensitivity and glucose management, meaning your body processes energy more efficiently throughout the day. When your metabolic function is working optimally, your brain gets a steadier supply of fuel. That means fewer energy crashes, less brain fog, and better focus. Many people don't realize that those afternoon slumps aren't just about food, they're about dysregulated circadian timing and poor light exposure early in the day. The positive effects of morning sunlight extend into emotional regulation as well. With more stable dopamine and serotonin levels, you're less prone to distraction, impulsive behavior, or mood swings, all of which can derail your ability to concentrate and stay productive. You become more emotionally resilient, better able to manage frustration, and less likely to procrastinate or fall into reactive patterns. Essentially, you gain more control over your attention, your mood, and your actions, and that translates into sustained performance. What makes this practice so valuable is how accessible it is. You don't need expensive nootropics, high-tech gadgets, or complex productivity systems. All you need is to step outside and let the natural light hit your eyes for 5 to 15 minutes within the first hour after waking. Even on overcast days, the intensity of outdoor light far exceeds that of indoor lighting and is sufficient to engage these powerful biological mechanisms. If you can combine this with a bit of movement, like a walk or stretching, the benefits multiply as physical activity further boosts blood flow to the brain and enhances neurotransmitter release. Over time, this habit becomes self-reinforcing. As your sleep improves, your energy increases. As your energy increases, your productivity improves. As your productivity improves, so does your sense of purpose and confidence. And the root of all of it is your relationship with light. one of the most ancient and powerful signals your brain understands. In an age where everyone is searching for shortcuts to increase their focus and output, it's important to return to the fundamentals. Morning sunlight is one of the most overlooked performance enhancers available. It's simple, it's free, and it aligns with how your body and brain are meant to function. Make it a daily ritual and you'll likely find that everything, your focus, your energy, your productivity, begins to shift in the right direction, with clarity and consistency you may have thought was out of reach. When we think about the factors that shape our long-term health, we often overlook the profound influence that the timing and quality of our exposure to natural light have on our bodies. One of the most transformative effects of morning sunlight is its ability to regulate melatonin production, which is essential for establishing a deep restorative sleep cycle. Melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, is synthesized in the pineal gland in response to darkness, signaling the body that it is time to prepare for rest. However, the production of melatonin is intricately tied to a well-functioning circadian rhythm, which itself is heavily dependent on regular exposure to natural light, particularly in the morning hours. When you consistently expose yourself to bright natural light early in the day, you essentially provide your brain with a clear message about the timing of the 24-hour day-night cycle. This message helps your internal clock, the circadian rhythm, to remain synchronized with the external environment. When this synchronization is strong and consistent, your body knows exactly when to produce melatonin in the evening, which allows you to fall asleep more easily and experience the deeper stages of sleep necessary for physical and cognitive restoration. Without that morning light exposure, your circadian rhythm can become out of sync, leading to irregular or delayed melatonin production. This misalignment can cause difficulty falling asleep, frequent awakenings during the night, or a lighter, less restorative sleep overall. Over time, poor sleep quality can lead to a host of negative health outcomes, including impaired memory, reduced immune function, increased inflammation, and even a higher risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular problems. Morning sunlight acts like a natural reset button for your internal clock. When your eyes receive that light input, specialized photoreceptors called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells detect the brightness and color of the light and send signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master circadian pacemaker located in the hypothalamus. This activation suppresses melatonin production during daylight hours and ensures that melatonin release will be appropriately timed to begin only when darkness falls. The precision of this timing is crucial. When melatonin release is synchronized with your natural night cycle, your body can initiate the cascade of physiological changes that prepare you for sleep: a drop in core body temperature, reduced heart rate, and a sense of calm that allows the mind to transition from wakefulness to rest. Not only does morning light help with falling asleep, but it also influences the quality of your sleep architecture, the progression through the various sleep stages, including REM and deep slow-wave sleep. These deeper sleep stages are vital for repairing tissues, consolidating memories, and clearing metabolic waste products from the brain. When melatonin production is properly regulated, you spend more time in these restorative phases, which is why people who get consistent morning light tend to wake up feeling refreshed and mentally sharp. Furthermore, morning light exposure supports the amplitude or strength of your circadian rhythm. A strong circadian rhythm means your body has clear signals about when to be active and when to rest. This rhythm creates a biological momentum that cascades throughout your physiology, regulating hormone levels, metabolic processes, immune function, and even gene expression. When the circadian rhythm is weak or disrupted, you lose this coordination, and many systems begin to function suboptimally. You might experience daytime fatigue, difficulty concentrating, mood disturbances, and an increased vulnerability to stress and illness. What makes morning sunlight exposure particularly effective is that it acts as a natural zeitgeber, a time giver, that helps align all your bodily systems to the same schedule. This alignment is fundamental not only for sleep, but for overall health and longevity. For example, people who maintain strong circadian rhythms tend to have better cardiovascular health, a more resilient immune system, and lower rates of metabolic diseases. The ripple effects of good circadian regulation extend far beyond just sleep quality. They impact your entire physiological and psychological well-being. In our modern world, where artificial lighting often extends well into the night and screens emit blue light that suppresses melatonin production, the importance of morning natural light cannot be overstated. Without the natural contrast of bright days and dark nights, the circadian system struggles to maintain its rhythm, leading to what some scientists call circadian misalignment. This misalignment is linked to a range of health issues, including insomnia, depression, obesity, and even certain cancers. By making a habit of getting 10 to 20 minutes of morning sunlight, ideally within an hour or so of waking, you reinforce the natural environmental cues your body has evolved to depend on. This helps ensure that your melatonin production will be robust and properly timed, leading to deeper, more restorative sleep. And with better sleep comes better energy, improved mood, and enhanced cognitive function during the day. This practice is particularly important for individuals who live in regions with limited daylight during certain seasons, or for those who spend most of their time indoors under artificial light. In these cases, it becomes even more critical to prioritize intentional exposure to natural morning light to help maintain circadian health. In summary, morning sunlight is more than just a wake-up signal. It is a critical regulator of the hormone melatonin and the overall timing of your sleep-wake cycle. By consistently harnessing this natural cue, you enable your body to achieve a state of balance and restoration every night, which ultimately supports your health, vitality, and resilience over the long term. When we consider the foundation of our overall health and longevity, it's easy to focus on diet, exercise, and stress management. But one of the most influential, yet often overlooked, factors is the way we manage our exposure to natural light, especially early in the morning. This simple natural behavior holds a surprisingly powerful key to not only enhancing your day-to-day energy and sleep quality, but also supporting your body's immune system and long-term resilience against disease. The immune system, which protects us from infections and helps maintain our body's internal balance, is deeply intertwined with our circadian rhythms. These rhythms govern the timing of numerous physiological processes, including immune function, hormone release, and cellular repair mechanisms. When your circadian system is synchronized and functioning optimally, which can be strongly influenced by consistent morning sunlight exposure, your immune cells operate with greater precision and effectiveness. This means your body is better equipped to identify and respond to pathogens, repair damaged tissues, and regulate inflammation. Morning light helps to set this circadian rhythm by signaling to your brain and body that it is daytime, which triggers a cascade of hormonal and immune responses. One key hormone influenced by this timing is cortisol, which has a complex role in immune regulation. While chronic elevated cortisol can suppress immune function, the natural early morning surge in cortisol triggered by exposure to light is beneficial and essential. It primes your immune system to be active and ready during the day, preparing your body to meet daily challenges. This rhythmic pattern helps prevent immune exhaustion and keeps the system balanced, avoiding both under and overreactivity. Moreover, natural light exposure affects the production of melatonin, a hormone often associated primarily with sleep, but which also plays a crucial role as an antioxidant and immune modulator. Melatonin helps to reduce oxidative stress, the damaging effects of free radicals, and supports the regulation of inflammatory responses. When your circadian rhythm is properly aligned by morning light, melatonin production in the evening is optimized, which enhances your body's ability to repair and recover overnight, including the immune system's restorative functions. In addition to hormonal effects, morning light exposure helps regulate the activity and migration of various immune cells. Research has shown that circadian rhythms influence when immune cells are most active and where they travel within the body. For example, certain white blood cells patrol tissues during the day, while others become more active at night. Proper timing ensures these cells perform their functions efficiently, contributing to stronger defense against infections and quicker healing of injuries. Furthermore, a well-regulated circadian system supported by consistent morning light can reduce chronic inflammation, which is a root cause of many age-related diseases, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, and neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. Chronic inflammation is often the result of circadian disruption, poor sleep, and stress, all of which can be mitigated by re-establishing a natural light-dark cycle through morning sunlight exposure. By reducing this low-grade inflammation, you not only improve your current health, but also promote longevity and resilience against diseases that typically develop over decades. This immune benefit is particularly important in the context of today's world, where people often suffer from social jet lag, a mismatch between their internal clock and their social schedules, as well as insufficient exposure to natural light due to indoor lighting. lifestyles. These factors disrupt the circadian rhythm and impair immune function, making individuals more susceptible to infections and slower to recover from illnesses. Intentionally stepping outside to receive morning sunlight can help reset your clock, reduce this misalignment, and thereby support your immune defenses. Additionally, early light exposure can indirectly support immune health by improving sleep quality, which is essential for immune system performance. During deep sleep, the body produces cytokines, proteins that help fight infection and inflammation. Poor sleep compromises this production, leaving you more vulnerable to pathogens. Morning sunlight, by reinforcing circadian rhythms and enhancing sleep, contributes to a stronger immune response. It's also worth noting that natural light exposure influences vitamin D synthesis through skin exposure to UVB rays. While this effect depends on direct sunlight on the skin, spending time outside in the morning can contribute to maintaining healthy vitamin D levels, which are critical for immune function, bone health, and overall well-being. In essence, morning sunlight serves as a master regulator that aligns your biological systems, especially the immune system, with the natural environment. It provides a daily, natural cue that orchestrates your hormonal balance, inflammatory responses, cellular repair, and immune vigilance. Over time, this alignment supports not only your immediate health, giving you more energy, better sleep, and resilience against infection, but also your long-term vitality and resistance to chronic disease. By integrating this practice into your daily routine, you are harnessing a fundamental aspect of human biology that modern lifestyles have largely ignored. You're not just optimizing your day, you're laying down a biological foundation that supports robust immune function and longevity. This simple act of seeking morning light becomes a profound investment in your health, one that echoes through your physiology with lasting benefits far beyond what you might expect from such a natural and accessible behavior.